Welcome to another recorded live event supporting our most recent Living Resilience Introductory Course, Collateral Beauty. This course, designed to challenge and resource both newcomers and the very experienced in the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities. Each recording in this series is from either the Saturday or Tuesday online Zoom gatherings intended to deepen an embodied and shared experience of this inner work of collapse in the course called Collateral Beauty. Hello, everybody. I'm Dean Walker, founder of this little node on the interwebs called Living Resilience, and the Living Resilience online community space, which is a Mighty Networks platform. That's where we have our online courses and events and special focus groups and things like that. And what you're watching right now, I'm assuming, other than the two folks that are with me here on the screen, if you're watching this at a later time, we have recorded it, as we have been recording all of the Tuesday and Saturday group practice sessions for this course. This course is Collateral Beauty, the inner work of collapse. And it's a 6-week adventure. It's meant to be an introductory course that's as challenging and as valuable for newcomers to the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant conversations, and hopefully equally valuable for people who've been around these challenging, extraordinary conversations for years or even decades. And this might just be the first session where people who have been around this conversation for decades, this might be the first one to start to nudge you a little bit, challenge you a little bit. I don't know what your capacities are. I don't know what your interests are. I don't know how far you've taken your study of human-caused collapse of Earth systems or human-caused collapse of human systems. But this particular session, which is session 4, which we're heading into week 4 of 6 in this 6-week online course. And I'm very happy to be putting together these Tuesday sessions and Saturday sessions, group practice sessions, which are again recorded for those who can't show up live. Because these recorded sessions really challenge me particularly to really articulate what's the progression through these weeks of the course. And those of you who've been following along with the material, you know that it's loosely based on the progression of Paul Chafurka's stages of awareness of our predicament, our global wicked problem, as it's sometimes called. And so first, I'd like to just quickly check in with Melissa and Bob and welcome you and show my deep appreciation of you both being here. It is so great to have you as accomplices in this particular session. And I'm wondering if you would just give us, each of you give us just a couple of sentences about how you're doing and what you're currently kind of grappling with in this course material. So would either of you like to start with a brief check-in?
Okay, I could start. I've been watching videos earlier, um, watching Michael Dowd one again, and then watching our videos that Dean made for the last two sessions. And I think the last two sessions were very good, getting into the finding the center, working with how how feelings about this situation really, well, it's starting to become a guiding thing for me. First I was flabbergasted, but now it's like Dean has said, you can't look at possible human extinction or extinction of animals, especially all the time. So there are practices that we're learning here, and a lot of it is taking our time. And so that's how I'm feeling today, feeling good about being able to take my time.
Yeah. Great. Thank you, Melissa. I know you have that fondness for animals, as do I. So thank you very much for that. Bob, you want to check in a little bit?
Yeah, and I'm feeling rushed.
All right.
I just all the spring stuff is uh, garden and everything is just catching up with me right now. I'm still a little behind, but I'm catching up. But
Yeah.
most of my time is going for that right now, and I don't mind doing it. I mean, I love to have my hands in the dirt and just being outside and I was going to use the ladder the other day to do something on the roof. Went to get the ladder, and the robin had built a bird's nest on it, so I couldn't move it. There were 3 eggs in it, so I didn't get to do that part. So, but they've hatched now, and you come around here, make noise, and they perk their heads up and open their mouths and start going like this. So it's right beside the garden, so I get to see that all the time. It's good. I'm not getting as much meditation time, and I'm not getting as much calmness time as I need. Somehow you have to work that in, but boy, spring is tough. So got plenty of time in the winter, and as things slow down in the summer, it's not too bad. But spring pushes you to get it all in. So that's about where I'm sitting right now. So glad to be here.
All right. Bob, thanks for the update about the birds. I really appreciate that. You're inundated with the life, the spring explosion. It just sounds so good. I really appreciate you sharing about that. All right. So I'd like to just touch in ever so briefly about sessions 1, 2, and 3. Session 1 is an entirely new. We're trying out an entirely new way of starting out this introductory course for living resilience, and we've never done it this boldly before. We go straight into collapse acceptance conversation with Michael Dowd. Bang. And for a lot of people, that is it. I actually haven't had a lot of feedback yet, but I have had a few people mention that this is a big step. And for many of us who have been collapse acceptant for quite a while, which is an obvious and clear and for some people very challenging step up from collapse aware to collapse acceptant, is a big deal. So it's easy for me to forget that because I've been more or less collapse acceptant since my teenage years. What was that, 200 years ago now? No, back in the 70s. And so we, we're starting it out with in that bold fashion. And we'll find out if that's a smart thing to do or if that was too much, to creating too big of a gap at the beginning. But I appreciate very much folks hanging in there and doing their best to stay with the material, especially with the Michael Dowd stuff. And again, the stages of awareness video that's right there in the first part of the introductory material in session 1. Those are the two really predominant key elements to kind of rattle us into engagement with the course. So you either watched those 2 videos and did some journaling and have been processing it, or not. So that's how that goes, and just reviewing. In the second session, we talked about the first aid level resilience, as I would call it, because what we're planning on doing here for each of these 6 weeks is we're more or less tracking along with Paul Chafurka's stages of awareness. And that first level above business as usual, or dead asleep, as he calls it, is when one problem comes and just whoops us upside the head. It gets our attention in a way we just can't ignore. It means that business as usual gets rattled in some way. And for some people, for many people around the world, these past few years has been a progress of more and more natural disasters, fires, floods, droughts, hurricanes, and so on and so on. Not to mention the human-caused collapse elements of human systems that have been going on. So pandemic, mass unemployment when it's been hitting, the food challenges, and so on, that are oftentimes limited to regions and so on. Not to mention the immigration of many people who have been driven from their homes for a number of reasons around the world. Those are the kind of skills, those first aid level resilience skills, is what we go from when we go from that first level, which is the business as usual level of Paul Chafurka's scale, to that first stage of awareness shift into one problem level. And someone that helped us back there in that early, that week's presentation materials was Jack Adam Weber, who's a masterful healer and masterful facilitator of integration of both trauma work and shadow work. And I guess I would actually include soul work with Jack as well. So hopefully you've given some time to sample his offering in that first aid level resilience skills. They're very simple. They're based on breath, on contact of our body, of very simple exercises or practices that can help us stay present in our body. Because sometimes these things that come along and knock us off center really knock us so hard that we go into shock. We disassociate from our body. We aren't able to be as present to our loved ones as we'd like. So again, that's roughly session 2 and into session 3. Session 3 we had last week, and there's a remarkable physical practice that I hope you've had a chance to review and to do. And with that one, I would strongly recommend that you take that on. If you can take that on daily, great. If you can only do it a couple times a week, it's so worth your time. Stacey Haynes doing that simple centering practice that she offers is so potent. Um, yeah, I would just recommend highly. If you haven't seen it, please do. And if you have any possibility of integrating it into your life for the next few weeks or beyond, uh, at least a couple times a week or more, and be a strong recommendation. Another uh, reminder is back in, I believe it was section 2, we also offered you a guided meditation. Couldn't be simpler. It's an extraordinary place to be able to find self-regulation and co-regulation without even having to think about it, without even hearing those words spoken. It's just such a calming and self-regulating and co-regulating practice. It is also an extraordinary advanced practice that you don't have to even know a darn thing about it to be starting to build up your capacity to be present at a different level in a different way. Use your attention in a different way. My experience is that even people who have never heard about energy or the energy body or how to see or experience energy in a more profound way, that even without even hearing those words spoken in the wider embraces practice, people find themselves being able to articulate during there are times when you're invited to speak about what you're experiencing in the middle of that guided meditation. People who are brand new to all of this find themselves being able to articulate quite well some of these energetic distinctions that will be extremely valuable if you were to take on any of these advanced practices that are coming today, and they're going to be coming in 5 and 6. This is week 4. And so we will be adding these advanced practices and distinctions through today, next week, and the week beyond. And of course, this is all just an introduction. This is all just a way to get our toe in the water. And if you are attracted to any part of the work or any part of the practices, you can just shop and pick and choose the pieces that are valuable for you, and perhaps find kindred spirits with whom you can start to share the experience of various practices and have some in-depth conversation around some of these prompts that we're going to be talking about today. So that's as much recap as we're going to do. I'm a little, I had a very strong request from somebody who's not here this time, who was here last time, who asked for more practices while we're in these Tuesday and Saturday sessions. What I can tell you is that there is such a thing as offering too many things, too many practices. And I'm already on the edge of that going too far with y'all. So we could do a small section of Stacey Haynes centering. We could do what she calls the 2-step. I don't know if anybody who's watching has done that 2-step basic Aikido exercise that she offers as a part of her centering. What I think I'm gonna do in a moment, I'm just gonna check in with my 2 accomplices here, Melissa and Bob, and just see if they've got any preference about how much to go into the practices or how much to dive into what's coming in this coming week. Yeah, let's just do that right now, because I'm happy to respond if either of you has a strong request for a bit of recap or a touch in about an actual practice. If you would like that, we can do that.
Well, I was thinking about Catherine Ingram and directing attention.
Uh-huh.
And of course, all these practices are about directing attention.
Yep.
So I think it would be nice to do a practice and maybe then talk about what happens during the practice after.
Okay. Okay. All right.
That sounds good to me.
All right. Good. So what I'm inclined to do is a bit of a guided meditation through different ways of activating our attention along the lines of what I recall vividly from listening to Catherine Ingram read her own essay. And I've also listened to a number of her recorded kind of satsang, if you will, the group gatherings that she records and she offers live where she lives in Australia. And really, that is a psycho-spiritual practice as well. That is at the core of psycho-spiritual practice, I would say, is a very distinct way that people are invited to engage their attention from the way that we attend to our daily living. There is a shift in how we attend at the psycho-spiritual level. We literally shift our attention. So how about if we do a brief shift of our attention from the daily way that we activate our attention into a more expansive way of activating our attention. All right. So starting with arriving more deeply into our own body, starting with the simplest elements of being present in our body, noticing the sensations of our body against a chair, perhaps on the floor, noticing wherever our hands are, the sensation of our hands. Mine is being on the desk in front of me. Now noticing breath. Without adding any effort, allowing an easy, full flow of breath in and an easy, relaxed release of air out. And taking 3 of those intentional, full, easy breaths in and out at your own pace. Now, taking a moment to notice, if you would, if you're comfortable doing so, allowing your eyes to close if you haven't. And allow your inner focus, your inner awareness to scan the area around where you're sitting. Noticing without using your eyes, allowing your senses, your inner senses, to scan the area around you. Perhaps some distance over your head, behind you, noticing a small distance like a bubble around you, even beneath you, noticing what you notice about that bubble. There's some who would call this an embrace, this bubble, this presence of our awareness in this bubble around us, nearby, above, below, behind, all around. This could be called an embrace, this bubble. And now, allowing ourselves to expand that bubble to a tremendous degree. Expand this bubble all the way out to include the other folks here on the screen. Expand that bubble with your presence and awareness. So you can include each of us in this triad. And notice if anything has shifted, if you can perceive any shift of temperature, of sensation. And perhaps, how about, are there any feelings present? Can you get a sense of how these three people, these three bubbles overlapping? Does it feel coherent or calm or maybe agitated? Any voice is welcome to share any part of your experience of having expanded your bubble to include all three of us. I'm noticing a stillness. And a warmth, some sort of ease. Yeah. And Melissa, I think you might be speaking, but you are muted.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Uh, yeah, I was saying with my eyes closed, and then I peeked a second. But with my eyes closed, the images of you uh, are less, less clear. But this feeling and the knowledge of your personalities is much more clear that to me in my mind than your images because my eyes are closed. So just I've been meditating on who you are because I know you very well by now. I mean, not in a lot of detail, but I feel like I know you very well, and that's a good thing to be meditating with you all.
Mhm. And before we end this particular brief time of bubbles and embraces, I would invite us to bring a permeability to the edge of our bubbles as far as they extend, consciously, if you're comfortable doing so, to allow a permeability to the edges of those bubbles. And just notice if that is something that feels comfortable or easy for you to do or not. To bring a consciously generated permeability to this particular grouping, this particular gathering of bubbles or an embrace of the three of us. And so I would invite us now to start to bring our awareness back to our own bodies, back to the sensations that you're aware of in your own chair, in your own body now. Noticing the sensation of your breathing, the cool air. And when you're ready to do so, you can open your eyes and bring yourself back to full presence here and now with each of us. Something I notice in my own experience, this was obviously just a tiny fragment of a wider embraces like experience and meant to be just a shifting, conscious volitional shifting of our attention. And it also reminded me that there's something very refreshing and nourishing for me about the Wider Embraces experience because um, I've never experienced some sort of hidden agenda or even openly expressed agenda to manipulate our attention. And one thing I can say about Catherine Ingram's presentation and her reading of her own essay and so on, and how she conducts her satsang gatherings as well, is for the most part, I experience her being extremely sober and clear of self-importance, clear of agenda. So I think she does a pretty darn good job of that. So is there anything that either of you would like to say about this brief opportunity to shift our attention, and anything you want to say?
I felt support.
Mm.
And the comfort of the support. So that was good.
All right. Thanks.
Me too. Yes, me too. I really like groups like this
Mm-hmm.
that we're opening up and not always trying to accomplish anything, just
Mm-hmm.
while still, the practice you want to practice so it can go on or it can be is what it is. Um, One thing I was thinking about, I was real quick, what we resist persists, and that I watched that video, but I forget, I can't remember the German guy that did it, but at any rate, um, in meditation, usually when for me, there's some kind of thing that comes in. It's, like Dean was just saying, um, agenda, some kind of agenda, but it's kind of a part of my personality that is maybe a dark or shadow personality type. Um, you know, I think quite a bit about that because a lot of my shadow personality I have gotten to know quite well. But the funny thing is, kind of, when I said my eyes are closed, but then I peeked. There's this person, in there that just has to do that. I'm trying to visualize who you are without looking, but I had to look. So, like that. Anyway, this is fun.
Good. Good. I'm so glad that you both, really rallied and voted for that. I also found it, as always, just valuable and good to do that. I'd like to shift gears into a brief suggestion and rundown about what's coming in this week's material. I know that both of you have experienced the Deeyah Khan interview with Russell Brand. That she's a filmmaker and she has chosen perhaps the most unbelievably challenging focus for her filmmaking of anybody I can imagine. It's just, my head explodes when I think of what she's taken on. Now, I don't know if she's still doing that. I don't know what her current projects are. This is from a few years ago. But what I do know, just by watching the video again of Deeyah Khan, and so for those who are watching this recording, that's what's coming in the center point of the material for this week. uh, is Deeyah Khan's interview, and she basically has been making films about people who want to kill people like her. They are white nationalists in the USA. They are not at all pleased with the influx of people of color and women of color in particular. And there is no love lost from that group or those groups with her or people like her. And it's one of the most extraordinary interviews I've ever seen, where she just discloses in a way that seems to be completely empty of self-importance. I don't see her parading around about how amazing she is at doing any of the things that she needs to have done in order to go to these people's compounds and be there with their production, a small production team, all people of color, and totally at risk of being attacked at any time, physically injured or worse at any time. And this is multiple interviews that they conducted over years with, again, with people who have extreme aggression for them. And as she shares, there's actually a warmth and a compassion going both ways. They eventually find a way to not just tolerate or not be violent with each other. There's actually a warmth and an affinity and a mutual humanity that she's somehow able to find with these men. So here's my challenge to anybody who's watching this video, the recording of this session, and heading into this next week. My invitation and challenge for you is to really go into journaling, perhaps at a depth you've never explored before. I don't know what your journaling practice is, and I'm assuming that you're a better journaler than I have. I've been inconsistent my whole life. I've started more journals than I can count, and I usually get 3 or 4 pages in and stop. But I can tell you that since writing my book, starting in 2015, a couple of years of writing, I started to really get it. I started to really get that this is the most challenging conversation in human history. And if there's not an abundance of prompts for journaling and prompts for profound conversations here, then perhaps there never will be. You know, this is the real deal. And so, you know, there's nothing y'all don't have to do journaling. You don't have to have these conversations. You don't have to generate your own prompts for this material. But I think there's an extraordinary opportunity if you're willing to give it a try, really give it your best effort, especially in these coming weeks. This is this is material that I, you know, even though I've been at this particular type of this level of the journaling and conversations and so on for going on 10 years now, I've actually been exploring this stuff since my teenage years. And I just I find myself right up against, I don't know how to express the value and the depth of meaning and relationship, and even the kind of the innermost resources that I know how to touch into, which I call the implicit. It's just hard to overstate how valuable that can be. as a practice here. So thank you for listening to that. And I hope that you will very much enjoy the Deeyah Khan material. So I'm going to share screen for just these last few moments, and I'm going to speak about, can you all see the course material on the screen? Yeah, great.
Yes.
Okay. There were some great songs and what I call the beauty items last week. So I really hope you folks are diving in to those. And there are some pretty sweet ones this week as well. If you have the space to go through each of the elements that are included in each weekly section, great, please do. If not, just be sure to get the Deeyah Khan element. There's a second and different wider embraces element this week. I would just strongly recommend give it a go. What's different in this one is a psychologist from New Zealand who's been doing wider embraces for a while, brings in a new element that I hadn't seen done before, which is to do an embrace of the larger than myself, larger than ourself, our individual self, stressors. So the embrace of what is that in the human embrace around the world when people are experiencing stressors that are larger than our individual self can possibly hold. It's an extraordinary and for me very, very useful wider embraces section to practice. So I hope you will consider doing that and making that a part of perhaps once or twice a week in these final weeks and beyond, if you would like. I've recently, just yesterday, as a matter of fact, added another element that is the second film that I've seen from one of the most profound animated film producers I've ever seen. The first one is available if anybody's interested. It's mentioned in the show notes of this one, which is again the second film that I've seen from this filmmaker. And this one, you'll notice the little icon that says Kingdom. So Kingdom is again the second short animated film from one of the most profound filmmakers I have ever experienced. A word of warning to everybody. This is a very intense animated film. It's short, it's intense. For me, it's just real. It is like an energetic layout of what's going on in human beings at this time. And this is actually a progression from his first film, which was about shadow, the human shadow. And this one is I think it's 10 minutes long. It takes us from the intensity of what it is to live with our shadow completely metabolized, completely unexplored for most people on the planet. It's my assertion, and certainly the assertion of the filmmaker, that shadow is what's running this planet, and shadow is what's taking us down. It is what's causing the human-caused collapse of both Earth and human systems. So this film, Kingdom, is quite bold. And so I I don't consider it offensive. I don't consider it to be a problem or over my capacity. But if it sounds like, oh God, something's too dark or too intense, if that even just hearing those words, then don't watch it. I'd be more than happy to um, have an offline conversation with anybody who's, just wondering, how do I consider, doing these kind of more intense elements of this course and of this body of work. I think for the vast majority of people that I'm aware of that are engaged with this living resilience body of work, go for it. This is an extraordinary film, and I'd really be I'd be very, very pleased if you would share whatever your reactions are, whatever you experience after watching that film, either in the Living Resilience, in the Collateral Beauty support group space, which is it's in the groups section there. You can actually see it, right? There's a Collateral Beauty course support group space. And so that's another space where you could share whatever you'd like to share about any of the elements that you're encountering in this Collateral Beauty course. I think that's all I'm gonna say. I'm curious. Melissa, Bob, would you be willing to sit through a song together for, I don't know, 3 minutes or so?
Do we have to sing?
What's that?
Should we sing?
Well, I wish this was a choir sing along.
Okay, just asking.
That's a different week.
Sure, let's sit through it.
And this one, actually, the words are on the screen, so you can sing along. And it's a simple song, and it's a kind of a sad or a quiet song. And it's from a woman that I just really appreciate her gift as a singer-songwriter. And what I love about it is she takes me right back to what it is to just be human beings together on a path that's very, very challenging. And she has a way of talking about it in a way that just returns me to simple living with other people and kind of, I don't know, holding each other's hands as we walk along this tough, challenging path. So I'd like to just kind of end our session today with this song from Mary Gauthier, and it's Walking Each Other Home. So here we go.
Just now getting round to letting go, but you had your suitcase packed a long time ago. The road got rough, you got ahead of me. I tried to pull you back, I know you had to leave. We put each other through a world of hurt. Maybe that's the way it is on this side of the dirt. Nobody wants to be alone. I hope you're happy now. I heard you found someone. I don't know how this story's supposed to go. I don't people know. It ain't about the money, ain't about who's right or wrong. We're all just walking each other home. Somewhere between Cain and Abel, that's where we live. It's only human to take more than you give, to reach for a fix to fill you up, take away the pain. Oh, but that's not love. I don't know how this story's supposed to go. I don't know a lot of things other people know. It ain't about the money, ain't about who's right or wrong. We're all just walking each other home. Ain't for me to see what's bad or good. In the end, we both did the best we could. I don't know how this story's supposed to go. I don't know a lot of things other people know. It ain't about the money, ain't about who's right or wrong. We're all just walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home. We're all just walking each other home.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, Melissa, Bob, thank you so much for being here and being a part of these group practice sessions as much as you are. Thank you. And I sure look forward to whatever feedback you both have, and anyone who's watching the recording about any part of these courses. That's the only way we can grow and keep them tuned up, keep them being relevant for you, useful for you. And that goes for the beauty part too, the songs and all that. Anything you'd like to say before we close up?
Thanks, Bob and Dean. Been a great meeting.
I look forward to next week. I'm going to do a little bit more of the coursework this week than I did last week. So, and I had already listened to that song. So it's good to go through it again. So
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what walking each other home actually means. Where's the home? Where are you going?
Mhm.
Where are we going? And
Yeah,
what does it mean to go home now?
Yeah.
What does it
Yeah.
mean to go home now together?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's a good question, Bob.
Mhm.
That sounds like a good journal prompt.
Yep, definitely.
All
All
right.
right.
Thank you both very much.
Thank you. Y'all take care.
You too.
Welcome to another recorded live event supporting our most recent Living Resilience Introductory Course, Collateral Beauty. This course, designed to challenge and resource both newcomers and the very experienced in the collapse-aware and collapse-acceptant communities. Each recording in this series is from either the Saturday or Tuesday online Zoom gatherings intended to deepen an embodied and shared experience of this inner work of collapse in the course called Collateral Beauty.